Well, let us know. What has life been like since May 11th for you?
Man, just a lot of the same. It's funny too. You can always talk about the negatives of loss. You can talk about the pain of a loss, the anguish, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities, the discouragement. But there's a lot of freedom that comes in a loss, and I think that's something that's not taken into consideration so much in this sport. We think that life is defined by the wins and the losses and the ups and the downs. But truthfully, there's a lot of freedom that comes in a loss. There's only one way to go now. And I secretly love when my back's up against the wall. I secretly love when I'm coming off of a loss. It's kind of that wrestler mentality. You lose a wrestling match on Wednesday, you get to redeem yourself on Saturday. It's kind of how it always was, and I've always been like that. And losing to Patricio Pitbull that's no. He's not a guy that loses much, So it's not like I lost to a nobody. He's a world-class fighter, so my hat's off to him. Caught me in a good spot. I zigged when I should have zagged, and here we are. But now here I am about to fight at the Saitama Super Arena with Fedor and Rampage, so I'm excited about it.
That kind of mature approach to it, is that something that's come in your career? Because I think about you as an incredibly competitive guy, right? Mm-hmm. Is it difficult to not dwell on the results so much and realize that there is more to it?
It would be if you didn't know my past. I lost 3 fights in a row, 688 days without a win, because I lost that first fight to Eddie, and for some reason I let the loss and I let the negativity, I let it all affect me so much. And now the older I've gotten, the more I've realized. I think I've also just gotten more freedom in the sense that I realize I've been in the sport for 10 years. I've made a great living. I have a beautiful family at home that is being taken care of very well because of this sport and because of what the people before me have done. And I've seen so many people come into this sport who were supposed to be world champions and they end up fizzling out. Or I've seen so many great talents who've had really bad injuries and they have to quit and they have to retire early. And for me to be in this sport for 10 years, shoot, man, I feel like I'm fighting on borrowed time at this point, because this has been such a great long career, and it's been such a great time, a great experience, and I've done nothing but get better. Even through my losses, I gain experience and I gain fans. Every single loss that I've had, I've gained more fans than I would have if I would have lost. The way that I handled this last loss spoke volumes about my character and about who I am, and I've had so many hundreds of thousands of people tell me that, whether it be through social media or YouTube or whatnot. So it's been really cool, and it was not something that was cultivated overnight. I had to go through the experience of that was my 5th loss now in this career. And the good thing is, the older you get, the more you realize that mixed martial arts is a what have you done for me lately business, but it's also a very forgiving business. You can be a guy who loses a fight, and then all of a sudden now you're fighting at the Saitama Super Arena co-main event and jerking the curtain for Fedor and Rampage. So here we go.
I was going to say, you've had some big moments in your career, but is this one right, guys? Is this special, like the fan inside you a little bit? Is this one unique?
It is. And it's funny too, and I always say this about this sport. It's a tragedy that you don't get to enjoy the experiences more. I can't enjoy the experience of fighting in Saitama Super Arena because whenever they open that curtain and I walk out there to the biggest crowd I've ever seen, and I remember all those huge fights in Pride and the history of this arena, fighting in Tokyo, Japan, in front of a really, really awesome crowd that is the Japanese MMA fan contingent. You can't let it get to you. You can't let it get to your head, because then it goes to your heartbeat, your heart rate, and then it's going to affect the way that you fight. And then it's not until you get done with the fight that you can look back and say, man, that was pretty darn cool, So unlike a lot of sports, you can't enjoy the moment as much as you want to. But this is awesome. This is a dream come true. Obviously fighting in Madison Square Garden and LA and Hawaii and some of these huge markets that I've done in the US is awesome and nothing short of amazing. But Saitama Super Arena in front of 40,000 people is a dream come true.
You don't strike me as a guy that has issues with motivation, but I do wonder, change of opponent, going from a much more known commodity into a much lesser one. Mm-hmm. Did that mess with your mindset at all?
I'd be lying if I said it didn't, if there wasn't a moment there where it affects you, but I've, unfortunately and fortunately, I've had a lot of experience with opponents getting hurt, injured, pulled out of the fight. This is just the nature of the business. We go out there and fight and train with reckless abandon, and Benson Henderson is a tough guy, and I know he would never pull out of a fight unless he had an injury. So it was a day or two there where everything was up in the air, but they assured me they were going to keep me on the card, and they did. And here we are fighting Sydney Outlaw. And, either way, it's not really a fight against Sydney Outlaw. It's a fight against myself. It's a fight against my talents, my abilities, the calling on my life, being able to go out there and just perform the way I know I can perform, and the way I know I need to perform. And it's not the greatest tests that kind of define your character. It's the times where you're able to slack off. I had every opportunity to slack off with a lesser opponent, allegedly. I had every opportunity to cheat on my diet because we're fighting at 161. I had every opportunity to take the easy way out and not do the extra rounds. But that's not the way my heart beats. That's not the way the blood flows through my veins. And I've done that since day one. And Sydney Outlaw is going to get the same treatment that Benson Henderson would or Khabib would,
Anything that he does that does strike you as a little bit dangerous or something you got to be careful with?
He's a big body. He's a wrestler. He's a black belt, in jiu-jitsu. So he poses threats. He poses and more than anything, he's the Rocky in this story, right? He gets the opportunity to fight a big name in a big market, in a big arena, in a big co-main event. I've been in that position, 8 years ago against Eddie Alvarez, but I've been the guy now that has had to either defend the title or defend my ranking or defend my name in the last, 20 fights or so. So this is familiar territory for me. Go out there, do exactly what I need to do, and fight like I've trained, and everything should take care of itself, hopefully.
I know you handle yourself as a professional, but are you on pit bull watch around the hotel, or how does that work? A little bit. I know they're here in town. I've already thought if I run into him, I got nothing but respect for him and the family. What am I supposed to do here? I lost the last fight. The way I see it, though, I'm 2-1 against the Pitbull brothers, so I'm still on the upper hand. And if we get the rematch, it happens. If we don't, like I said, I've told numerous media outlets now that they're like, is that the fight you want? You want that fight back? Do you want to fight him again? Get that back. I've never been a guy who's been motivated by getting back at another person. I sleep well at night knowing exactly who I am and exactly what I've accomplished in the sport and exactly where my skill set is and exactly what would happen if we stepped into the cage again. So I don't care whether or not that fight happens again. But if we see each other here in the hotel, I'm sure he's got some shenanigans he would like to pull. But I got to focus on Sunday. Fair enough. Last thing for me, you mentioned kind of the freedom that comes along with it. Give me an idea. How do you see 2020? What have you thought it out yet? What do you want to accomplish?
2020 is a year of simplicity as well as violence and moving forward. 2018, 2019 were tough years for me and my family because of how much stuff we put on our plates. My wife and I are two people that we're so equally yoked that we want to continue to strive and create things and strive and acquire. For my wife, she just graduated. She's a doctor now, so she just graduated a couple weeks ago. So she was pursuing that, and we had our son 2 years ago, and then I built a gym, 10,000 square foot facility with overhead and employees and all kinds of stuff. And I've since simplified that. Bree just graduated from school, so 2019 we ended off with simplicity. 2020 we move into simplicity and significance and violence. For me, I've realized who I am and who I am not at the age of 32. Now 33 now. So I kind of went to business school and life school, if you will. So I've learned exactly who I am and who I am not. And in order for me to be the most successful and efficient and effective individual, I need to have less things on my plate and more focused on the things that really make me tick, which is my platform, fighting, me as an athlete, and soaking up this last half a decade I have left in the sport.
Who are you training? Who and where are you training with now?
Still down in South Florida with Hard Knocks 365. We are now Sanford MMA down in Florida. Henry Hooft, Kami Barzini, Greg Jones, Corey Peacock. Ton of awesome training partners down there. I've been down there now for 4 years now, and my kickboxing has obviously shown it, and my wrestling with Kami and Greg, and it's been awesome.
So are you 10 years now into this?
10 years. August of 2019 was 10 years, yeah.
Now, are you playing with house money now, or is this always part of the plan? In 10 years, I'll be in Saitama. Like in your head, where are you right now?
That's kind of what I feel. Yeah, I feel like I'm just playing with the house money. Exactly. That's kind of like the perfect way to put it, without sounding like, oh, if my career fizzles out, it fizzles out, because I've accomplished enough. It's funny when you get to a decade in this sport how much you realize that all that pressure I put on that young man named Michael Chandler, all that pressure when he came out of college, all the wins and losses, and all the losses inside of training camps and inside of the sparring rounds that allowed me to get in my own head. You feel sorry for that kid because you put so much dang pressure on him, and now here you are 10 years later fighting the Saitama Super Arena. This career is reserved. Success in this career is reserved for those who are able to withstand the pressure, withstand the beatings, the ups and downs, the getting kicked in the teeth and having to pull yourself back up and realizing you just got TKO'd in front of 20, 30,000 people and millions of people watching it on TV. But the critics are always going to be there. But it's us who are inside that cage, and it's us who are able to pick ourselves back up. And this career for me has been nothing short of amazing, and I've made a great living for myself, and I continue to do that for the next 5 years or so. I keep putting numbers on it and times on it, and I always said I was like I'd probably retire by the time I'm 35. Now at 33, I feel just as good as I was when I was 23. And I'm not just saying that. I really think physically as a man, I became an actual man at 30, and now I'm still continuing to get better, still adding more muscle, adding more speed, adding more stamina, adding more cardio, and more importantly, adding more veteranship.
How long did it really take over? How long did it really take to get over the loss?
This last one?
Yeah, because you said you woke up later on, but I'm sure the next morning you were looking at the tape like.
Yeah, it's tough, because I think more than anything, I don't care. Even though it was a heated rivalry, I don't care that I lost to him. It could have been anybody throwing a punch with a 4-ounce glove and hit you behind the ear, and that's what happens. It's just the way God created our brains and our equilibrium and all that. For me, it was more just letting down of myself. Man, I know I'm better than him. I know I'm better than anybody I step into the cage with. I know that my wife has made ridiculous sacrifices for these training camps and being away from her, and her basically being a single mom for 2 months while I'm, pursuing this mixed martial arts career. My mom and dad, who spent countless their whole 20s and 30s and 40s working 2 jobs to make sure me and my 2 brothers were able to do everything we wanted to and soak up as much of this life as we possibly could. And I'm here at Saitama Super Arena because of them and the sacrifices they made. So you just have that feeling of, man, my coaches trained me so hard and poured so much into me, my family, my wife, my sacrifices. But when you realize I have such an awesome group of my inner circle that loves me no matter what. At the end of the day, win or lose, they really truly do love me, and that's something that can't be bought with a pound of gold. So it's something that for a couple days there, it was kind of just weird and weary, but it was almost weary the way that I felt. I came back to the locker room. Coaches were quiet, wife was quiet, mom and dad was quiet. Chase Daniel, my friend who plays for the Chicago Bears, we fought in Chicago, he was there, he was quiet. Everybody's just quiet, and I'm kind of like, man, this is not that big of a deal, guys. I've been here before. I've picked myself up off the canvas, literally, numerous times now, and we're going to continue to move forward. And now here we are, about to fight in the Saitama Super Arena, one of the biggest, probably one of the milestones definitely one of the milestones of my entire career. Just a couple months later, and I just remember looking at all them and saying, guys, it's going to be okay. This stinks. This is bad, but don't feel the way you're feeling because of me. Don't feel the way you are feeling because of the way that you think that I should feel, or the way that you should be reacting to what just happened to me. This was supposed to happen. This is how it was planned out to be, and this is going to be a springboard for my comeback, and here we are.
Yeah, I guess last thing for me, because you talked about, when you said when you turned 30, or not 30 exactly, but you became a man.
Yeah.
And that was in Florida, I guess. You were in Florida by then, so can you talk a little more about that idea of becoming a boy and a man in this sport?
Yeah.
I'm sure you mean more than just I could do more push-ups or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's bigger than that.
Well, it is. A lot of it is physical, though. It's crazy that people throw around the term it's a young man's sport all the time, right? And I truly don't think that. I think it's a young man's sport because we take so much damage traditionally. Most people take so much damage, and by the time you're 30, you've already put so many rounds in the gym. You've already put so much into the wars you've had in the cage that by the time you hit 30, the chin might be starting to whittle away, maybe. But I mean, man, look at the average age of these champions. The average age of a champion these days, I saw it on I think one of you guys might have put it out on one of your MMA Junkie or MMA Fighting, that it was the average age of a champion is 32 to 34. I mean, it's crazy because I think this sport is an older man sport. Not old man in the sense that once you hit 40, it's a little bit harder. But I think you don't truly become a man in this sport till you hit 30, with that perfect mix of experience as well as physical prowess, being able to be as strong and have great cardio, and also just having more control over your mind. The amount of control I have over my mind compared to when I was 22, when I just got into the sport. Of course, I was young and full of confidence coming out of the Mizzou wrestling room, and that carried me into that first fight, beating Eddie Alvarez. But now at 33 years old, I feel like I've gained the experience, I've gained the knowledge, I've gained the cage time to be able to withstand the ups and downs of the sport.
Last thing. Are you still one of the best in the world? Are you still one of the best lightweights in the world?
I absolutely think that. I think I'm one of the best in the world. Any given night, I think I beat anybody in the top 10. Because that is the beauty of this sport. I can say that, but unless you can prove it, it doesn't really matter, So that's kind of where it is. I mean, obviously fighting Sydney Outlaw here at Saitama Super Arena, nobody's going to say I'm the greatest lightweight in the world. I've navigated my career with a perfect mixture of businessman and athlete, and in my opinion, and I've taken every opportunity that has been presented to me. But yeah, I still think I'm firing on all cylinders. I still think I'm just as nasty today as I was 5 years ago when I was, champion for the second time and then the third time, So things are only getting better in my life, both as an athlete and as a man, as a father, as a husband. So I don't see myself slowing down anytime soon.